Okay, we are now live.
Ready? Okay. I would like to call to order the Monday, March 15th meeting of the City of Monona City Council. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Groupie.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Goforth.
Present.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Coor.
Here.
Alder Thomas.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March 1st meeting?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. We have one appearance tonight, Mr. Jeff Beckett. Mr. Beckett?
Jeff Beckett, a Oregon Terrace resident from 1963 to 1977, 4604 Winnequa Road since 2003. Thank you for the 3 minutes. I love Monona and don't plan on leaving anytime soon. What I have to say is not a personal attack on anyone. I'm addressing positions within city government and my concerns with how the related responsibilities have not been met. I have contacted numerous City of Monona officials and spent a great deal of time and effort over the past 10 months attempting to address the lack of property maintenance at the property next to mine. The code enforcement officer, city administrator, and city attorney have been unlawful and dishonest. With the exception of Alder Goforth, alders and the mayor have been dismissive or in some cases rude. I have first communicated my property maintenance concerns to the city more than a decade ago. Residents of the second neighboring property did the same, including the submission of a letter and photographs. My wife and I are currently in the process of selling our house, so patience is no longer an option. I don't understand how city officials, with the attorney's input, can refuse to follow the municipal code in addition to failing to follow state law. My most recent effort was a letter to the editor of the Herald Independent for the latest edition. Writing the letter included researching Monona Municipal Code, state statutes, and prior email correspondence, around a 12-hour effort. Unfortunately, the letter exceeds the length limits for publication. I will be sending the letter to city officials shortly. My property maintenance concerns mainly impact my family and immediate neighbors. However, government officials' failure to adequately carry out their responsibilities impacts the entire city. I strongly encourage Monona residents to read my letter, which can be found in the link I have shared, and asked Brian Gatto to share. I've asked Brian Gatto to share in the chat, or it can be obtained from city officials who by law are required to provide a copy upon request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have one other appearance that I'm aware of. Anyway, Brian, let me know if there's anyone else. Travis Human. Is Travis here?
Yep, right here. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'd like to state your name and your address, please.
Yep, my name is Travis Human. I live at Clear Spring Court, Monona, Wisconsin. It's probably been about a decade before I've come before the council, but it's good to see still some familiar faces. I'm here to speak in favor of the 2 proposed B-cycle stations to expand cycling access for more people. I believe in utilizing bicycles for transportation in addition to recreation. I personally ride about 1,500 miles a year, mostly utilitarian cycling. That's just on an ordinary traditional bike. And some years I ride my bike more than my car. But I realize that I am extremely lucky to be able to do so. I'm young, I'm healthy, and I'm able to ride 15 to 20 miles a day. I can arrive places sweaty, and I can afford a bicycle that works for me. And I'm also knowledgeable on how to fix it. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that not everybody is as lucky as I am, which is where e-bikes come in. This is all about accessibility for people who can't otherwise make bikes a viable form of transportation. This mainly includes older people, people with mobility issues, people who can't ride long distances or arrive sweaty, or who don't have access to showers at work. One of the studies that I saw was that the most common age for e-bike ownership is actually 55 to 64 years old, and 65% of them are over 45. Basically, they've eliminated access for people to actually get out and ride bikes. I actually had a personal experience with this, was made painfully aware when I injured my back a couple of years ago. Suddenly, bike riding was super painful for me. But through a B-cycle membership, I was able to continue riding to bike pretty much the entire summer. I did have to drive or ride a bicycle to the nearest station at Olbrich, but it did give me insight to people who are less fortunate than I am. But one of the barriers to e-bikes are they're expensive. They cost about $1,000 and can reach like $3,000 to $4,000 and more. Which this is kind of why bike sharing needs to be an integral part of our public transportation. Our bus system is great if it works for you. If you're not able to use it, there's quite a few limitations. So this is why I'm proposing that B-cycle complements our public transportation for a whole bunch of ways. It goes far more places, more than just downtown and the university. It runs at far different hours. It basically goes until midnight and starts up again at 6 a.m. It's faster, depending on where you want to go. It's also cheaper than the Monona bus, and an annual pass is probably worth about 2 months worth of bus service. It's cheaper than the Madison bus too, which is only about 85 days worth, or 45 days worth. And it's cheaper than parking in a garage downtown for a month. And you also get exercise and fresh air. So I believe that B-cycle will provide options for transportation and remove a barrier for people who can't or don't want to drive as much. It's a service to the community and it should be supported, including fiscally if necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, then I had, I guess, should I read the input that we've received on all the various topics now, or should I wait until the specific resolution, Brian? Which would you?
You can read it all into the record now.
Okay. And Joan, I can send you these later if you want. First of all, I'm going to read what we've received regarding the mountain bike question. We received different emails from several people. Beth Esser in favor of, Derek Peterson in favor of, and Sarah Moran in favor of, all in favor of the mountain bike trail proposal at Maywood Park. Next, in terms of B-cycle, and I'm sorry, I should have read the addresses of the others first, but Joan, I'll give you those. Lisa Gunlock, 404 Midland Lane, in favor of the B-cycle stations. Becca Phillips, 6009 Gateway Green, in support of the B-cycle stations. Kevin Alexander, 4807 Wallace Avenue, is against the B-cycle resolution. Jimmer, I assume this is Jimmer Unick, 6106 Queensway, is against the B-cycle installation. Chris Welly, 1018 Birchhaven Circle, supports the B-cycle installation. Mike Paulus, 6111 Winnequa Road, is against the B-cycle installation. And finally, Sue Carr, 4209 Winnequa Road, is in favor of B-cycles. And then I have a couple on the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee. Sue Carr again in favor of the committee. Ronesha Strozier, I do not have her address. It might be on a different form she sent. Does not support the approval of the ad hoc committee as it is written. She posed several questions that I think we'll be able to answer during our discussion of that later this evening. So that's all the input I've received. Is there anybody else who would like to speak that we haven't heard from? Brian, did you have any other forms from anyone?
You're muted, Brian.
Seeing any at this time.
None, okay. All right, then we will move on. There is no public hearing, there is no consent agenda. Moving on to the council action items under unfinished business, item 1A, consideration of resolution 21-3-2470, establishing an ad hoc work group on diversity and equity issues put forth by Alders Moore and Wood. Before we get into this, I just wanted to announce, and I'm going to have Brian expand on this a little bit, that we have talked to Harry Hawkins and Karen Reese from Nehemiah, and they will be involved with this committee going forward. And I'm going to, I was just there for part of the conversation. So Brian, I'm going to ask you to expand on that a little bit.
In talking with, it's a little bit easier to hear my audio. In talking with Nehemiah Center more about how their work can interplay with the work of this ad hoc work group, they suggested that if the council was amenable to it, to have them named as advisors to the ad hoc work group. That way they would attend the meetings of the work group, and that way both the committee and Nehemiah could have greater collaboration amongst the specific work that Nehemiah is doing to kind of serve as an advisor or a mentor role for the ad hoc committee, and the ad hoc committee can provide advice and input to Nehemiah on the work that they're doing. So my suggestion for the council, when you take up the discussion of the resolution, add some language under the membership section, just naming Nehemiah as an advisor to the committee, just to formalize that role.
Okay, so Alder Moore, did you want to do a little introduction on this, or?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, a couple of things. One is I just wanted to, there was a kind of a preamble, if you will, to my amendments that I was recommending for this tonight. And I just wanted to acknowledge I guess a typo in my preamble, which is to say that we would be perpetuating in writing the white privilege, not the white power, but the white privilege that we're consciously choosing to otherwise reject or change. As it relates to the amendments, I actually have an amendment to the amendments that I've already submitted. So I'm wondering in terms of if I should present those first, or do we have to vote down the amendments that are in front of people first and then?
Brian, what do you suggest? I think there's 3 different versions. One was the original proposal. Then there's another one with, are there 2 different versions of Nancy's amendments?
Yes, so in your packet, there are 3 different documents. And really, the first one is the original version of the resolution that you saw at your last city council meeting. The second version is a red line version incorporating Alder Moore's comments from the previous meeting. And then the third version is just a version that's accepted Alder Moore's changes from the red line into a clean version. To address the specific question about amending the amendment, I mean, you can, but it's cleaner if the council addresses the amendments as they are, and then further amendments could be offered up by the council.
Okay.
Alder Thomas and then Alder Groupie.
Do we have we have to have a motion on what we're voting on, and then we amend that motion.
Right. But do we, I guess, how do we handle the original?
Well, it's whatever someone votes, whatever someone moves us to accept. So if they move to accept whichever version, then that is the version that gets amended.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion. Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I'd be happy to make a motion. Yes. Do I have, is there a second?
What are you moving?
What is your motion?
I'm sorry. I'm moving that we accept the resolution as amended.
Is that version 2?
That'd be version 3. It's clean copy version 3, which incorporates.
Clean copy version 3. Thank you.
Second.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on this? Alder Groupie.
I just saw in my email that we have some unread concern. Well, I have not had time to read them yet from Renisha Strozier who is a person of color in our community, and I would like to take time to address those concerns before we approve anything. Additionally, I saw that Alder Wood had included a little amendment that he wanted to include in the, the final draft. And so I'm just wondering if we want to, if discussion is appropriate for tonight, or if we should take our time to examine these amendments, have a final copy or, close to final copy to present at our next meeting, and then have a discussion about it at that time. I personally would rather not delay, but I don't want to ignore any concerns from constituents or other members of the council in, attempting to formulate something that we intend to approve this evening. So.
Doug, do you have any thought about that? Since you have an amendment.
Well, I mean, my amendment is pretty simple. It will be just to change the start date for the 6-month period from, instead of having it at tonight or whenever the resolution is passed, the 6 months would start when the committee is actually, members have been appointed. With regard to the email that we received, I think a lot, if not all of the concerns that she raised can be addressed. So.
Alder Moore and then Alder Goforth.
Yeah, I would just say that the two amendments that I was going to make to the resolution that's just been seconded are, one of them is relatively small, which is that under the fourth whereas, where the small group of diverse residents is mentioned by name. I've been in touch with the residents involved who have been part of that group, and they feel more comfortable if they weren't mentioned by name. They would like acknowledgement in the resolution that they met and have put a lot of time into this, but they don't feel a need to have their names mentioned. So I was just going to remove their names.
I don't think they actually are mentioned in the version that's proposed. Are they?
No, it was taken out.
That was taken out, I think.
Okay, and then the second thing, and this relates to communication that we've had with Attorney Cole. It would be ill-advised for us to specifically mandate a number of individuals on the committee to be of color or otherwise marginalized or underserved. In fact, there's a case that Madison's dealing with right now. So I was going to, under be resolved, we were going to change it to the mayor will strive to attain a diverse committee membership in terms of race or historically disadvantaged or underserved groups. And as I said at the last meeting when this was first presented, it's on us, frankly, as a community to make sure that it's a diverse group. It doesn't let us off the hook by any means, and I don't, I feel really strongly that those voices need to be a majority, but it would not, it's ill-advised, and Attorney Cole is here to address that further if people would like.
And I'm hopeful with Nehemiah's involvement, we'll have, more likelihood of getting applications from more diverse pool.
Right.
So Alder Goforth.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, after reading Ronisha's email and hearing Jason's concerns at the last meeting, and knowing that we've contracted with Nehemiah to, and part of their contract was to create this community advisory council, I just feel like that seems to make so much more sense to do that first and let that drive this committee. I think, it's really important that we listen to what Ronisha's questions are. And I think I actually was going to move to table this until after the election, just because it's such a politically charged environment that I've heard some concerns amongst people of color who've reached out to me regarding, maybe the optics seeming a little bit disingenuous, and we certainly don't want that. I think that would be a wise thing to do personally. Maybe I don't know if we can explore Nehemiah doing their piece of that contract first, and then having that determine the committee. Because like Jason expressed last 2 weeks ago, was that, you know, us giving the leeway to this work group to determine whether or not a committee is deemed necessary, it does seem like a lot of leeway. If those things are not amenable, then I would ask that maybe we examine our application process and we ask that each alder can nominate a person to the committee. Other cities do this, and I know, I know it's non-traditional for us here, but that is a common practice in other cities. And so I think that might be an interesting thing to explore as a way to help get people on that committee that want to serve.
So we could ask them to apply too. Alder Groupie?
Yeah, I think that there are some important points raised in what Alder Goforth has to say. You know, I think there have been concerns expressed by constituents about the, you know, duplicating any efforts on Nehemiah's behalf and being involved in this ad hoc committee in addition to the community advisory committee. And I think I would personally be interested in learning more about what their plan is for their own committee and what that would look like. On the other hand, I do think that their involvement in an ad hoc committee that we've created as a city would be important in preventing them from duplicating efforts. You know, they would be on, you know, both teams, as it were, in order to ensure that, you know, we're not duplicating any efforts or, you know, needlessly replicating anything that they're intending to do. So I want to give credence to the idea that I think that will be an important aspect of their work for the city to flesh out. But I'm not sure that it precludes us from forming our own committee once we've sufficiently addressed all of the concerns that the community has shared and support that the community has shared for this community.
I do think the two committees will have different roles, but
that's
Alder
my
Thomas,
assumption too, but
yeah.
I'm curious to learn more. Thank
Alder
you, Mayor.
Thomas and then Alder Moore.
So when you talked to Nehemiah about this committee, how did they react? Did they think that it was a good idea? Did they think that it would conflict with their group? What were their thoughts on our setting up a committee?
Yeah, they thought it was a good idea. Their suggestion that that the city council consider them to be advisors to the committee was to ensure that this committee, which is more of a city-facing, public-facing committee, would be kind of better meshed, or that they could better mesh some of the work that they do with that committee. The community advisory committee, they've always indicated that that is more of less of a city process committee and more of a place where people feel comfortable to have conversations about their experiences. And that would be kind of run specifically by Nehemiah rather than managed by the city as a formal, you know, working group or committee that we would form. So the committees have two different purposes. But they suggested that if they were involved in advising this work group committee, that may, once they kind of help provide some advice on getting the work group set up, that may kind of change the way in which they want to run or set up the community advisory committee. So it's not a clear answer. I apologize, but that's kind of what was relayed to me.
Yeah, and this has been part of the reason why I delayed even bringing this committee to the council until now, because we weren't sure about the role of Nehemiah's committee. So Alder Moore, did you have something to say? And then Alder.
Yeah, I was just going to say that having had the meeting, obviously, with Karen and Nehemiah about this, and having also worked on the notion of a permanent Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or whatever we wanted, you know, would end up calling it for the last months. Again, with this diverse group of residents, you know, this is an ad hoc group. This is not a permanent committee, number one. It's an ad hoc work group. And the purpose, and certainly having been in that committee meeting with Karen, you know, again, the whole notion is my experience as a consultant tells me that significant change doesn't occur without having champions within an organization. And so, you know, part of the reason why I've been advocating for a permanent force and now this ad hoc committee to look in more detail about what that permanent force might look like, among other things, is that I do think we need some sort of a permanent force and focus at the committee, at the community level that is distinct from what Nehemiah will be doing. And so Karen, at the time that I said that to Karen at the meeting, I remember her, most definitely agreeing with it, that, permanent change, lasting change, cultural change comes from having the right champions. And I really, as I've said from the beginning, I think it is a systemic issue for this community. It's not as simple as just looking at the police or just, picking the right books at the library or having some listening sessions at the library or whatever else. It's really something that we need to be focused on longer term. So, and Karen did feel like, and Harry did feel like the roles would be distinct.
And I think the idea is Brian and I designed the original resolution was that it's ad hoc and it would inform what a permanent committee might do going forward, was the idea here. We could table this until the next meeting and ask Nehemiah to come and talk about what they will be doing. Alder Goforth and then Alder Coor.
Yeah, I think what Brian said is, having Nehemiah's CAC committee, having it be a space outside of a government body where people feel the opportunity to speak more freely is really an essential piece to determining where we go from there. And it seems to make a lot of sense to do that first. I think, it seems a little bit strange to have a city committee determine if we need a city committee. And I think it's almost seems like we're skirting around what Nehemiah had planned to do and what we, accepted in their contract. I hope, we can address Ronisha's concerns because they were really good concerns. And I feel like there were a lot in there. And that's going to take a little bit of time to get through. And I think it's really important that she feel heard and that Jason Chung feel heard. And I guess, I would be fully in favor of tabling this until after the election, actually.
Alder Coor and then Alder Moore and then Alder Thomas. You're muted, I think, Jen.
Go ahead.
We're still not hearing you.
I can't hear you. Mute.
Should we have, how about Alder Moore and then Alder Thomas and when Jen comes back?
Okay, I was just going to say, with respect to Renisha's comments, one of the first things that she asked is, does the city consider their work done once they create this committee? And the answer to that question would obviously be absolutely not. This is just one step of, we've taken steps already. And I would say that this is, another significant step in that this committee is all about creating a framework to keep going and make sure that that this effort is lasting within the community. And then second group of her concerns around the values and the inclusion of professionals that do that work. That's one of the reasons why we've already spoken to Nehemiah, and they will be the professionals that would be part of this work and advisors to this group. The principles guiding the group is something that the group itself will generate. And I'm sure as advisors, Nehemiah would be working on them, with them on that. Several of the other questions relate relate to the mayor's selection around the committee. But it kind of references it in a way like the committee already exists, and it doesn't. There is not yet a committee. But as the mayor's already indicated, certainly it would be on all of us and members of the community to encourage people to come forward who would like to serve in this way. And as with all appointments to committees, the mayor puts somebody up for an appointment, but if for some reason we had difficulty with that appointment as a council, we could, we could, deny that appointment, I suppose, but again, it's on, I really feel like it's on us to find good people and recruit a diverse group of people. And then there was a question around whether or not this committee would dissolve if a formal committee isn't created. And I would say that the answer is yes. An ad hoc committee is always intended to dissolve. That's by definition what an ad hoc group does. Is this committee expected to follow the same rules of other committees? Yes, I would say that they are expected. Are there notes being recorded for this committee? I would say yes, but the committee doesn't exist yet. But ad hoc committees always have that sort of thing as well, and the same rules, if you will, which is what one of the things that Renisha said. And she asked, she's not sure why this ad hoc committee is being created before the formal equity and inclusion committee that was mentioned in the resolution. And that's because, from my viewpoint anyway, the reason why we were going this route is that we wanted to get more voices in the room than just the small group that I've been working with, and that Doug and the mayor and Brian have been working with, to flush more out, more voices in the room, more community members in the room, before we fleshed out the charter, if you will, of a more permanent group. I think that answers most of her questions, if not all of them.
It was actually Nehemiah who suggested an ad hoc committee.
Exactly.
We're in our conversation
Yes.
with Alder Coor and then Alder Thomas. And then Alder Groupie.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
We can.
Yes, thank you.
I actually intended to move to table this till the next meeting.
Okay. So are you moving now?
Yes.
That cuts off discussion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 So is that 3-3?
I believe it's, yes, I believe it's 3-3.
Okay, I will vote aye. We'll table it to the next meeting.
Mayor, may I get the second, please?
That was
Alder Goforth.
I think Alder Coor motion,
Well,
Goforth seconded, right? And I suggest maybe we, in the meantime, come up with a resolution with all these other proposed resolutions that encompasses those, at least a red line of it, so you have more to consider all together in one document. So, okay, that item is tabled. Moving on. Consideration of Resolution 21-3-2466, award of contract for the Stonebridge Park Improvement Project put forth by the Public Works Committee. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jake? Or I guess Dan, is Dan here? Oh, Dan.
But Jake, I think Jake might have some information on the alternate bid. I'm not sure where that's at. So Jake, if you want to start.
I believe Missy is filling in for Jake this evening. I don't know if Jake is present.
Jake is here.
Oh, he is here. Okay. I can't see him on my screen, so I just want to make sure.
He's just on mute.
Jake, you're on mute.
Jake, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you want the alternate bid. Down. Okay. Okay. The Public Works Committee did approve the low bid by Joe Daniels Construction at the March 3rd meeting. The low bid amount was $731,543.75. It appears we will not be seeking approval of the alternate bid. So just the straight up low bid by Joe Daniels. The completion date we're looking at is August 15th. And I think that would be it for my summary. So we're seeking your approval tonight.
Could you explain, was the alternate bid the piece that dealt with the community center?
Yes, yep.
So what's the story with that? Are we not doing it, or?
I believe with Jake not seeking approval of the alternate bid, at least it's not being done with this project.
Okay, so we're not going to rebuild that driveway.
I don't have
Jake is just logging back in. Just give him 1 second.
Okay. Jake, are we not doing any of the things covered in the alternate bid?
The alternate bid covered the south side of the community center, widening of the sidewalk, and including a curb and gutter that was extended into the parking lot. So at this time, I think we want to not accept that alternate bid and just get a separate quote for just the replacement of the sidewalk on the south side. I think it was deemed that pushing the curb and gutter out on the south parking lot was just going to make it too tight for vehicles typically using the senior center to kind of maneuver back and forth. So I think at this time, we'd like to not accept that alternate bid, and we'll look at some other projects during the course of the summer that may make more sense to potentially utilize that funding.
So we will be doing the loading dock, though.
Correct. The loading dock area, that whole part of it, yes, is still included. It was just a separate part of that project.
Okay.
And then the fiscal note is updated to include the apparent low bid for the pagoda top as well in your packet.
Okay, and I think that's a separate item that we'll be discussing later, so.
That's correct.
Okay, questions, anyone? Alder, go forth.
Yeah, I just have a comment. It's just, I wish we could delay the park improvement piece of this just to wait and see if the stormwater cells hold. I guess I believe in incremental steps, and I find that, as you start a project, if new discoveries happen along the way, like say a pandemic, it's okay to stop a piece of that. And I'm 100% in favor of the stormwater piece. I know that has to happen, and I'm thrilled that it's covered by grants. But we are in tight fiscal times and an economic downturn. And and also at the public input session, a lot of people asked that less is more, and they didn't want to see all the hardscapes that are in the design. So I won't be voting to approve, but it's simply because I just feel like we should be delaying the park improvement piece, not the stormwater piece. Just making it quite clear.
Thank you, Alder Groupie.
With all due respect to Alder Goforth, I know that she feels very strongly about this. I appreciate whenever, an Alder has a voice of dissent or a strong opinion that it's shared. I think that's very important and essential to our dialogues. However, I would say that, we've talked several times about the necessity of combining the projects to save money. It's like when you do a road redesign, you wouldn't want to save the gutters until later because it would be a much greater additional expense further down the road instead of combining the projects into one. So I do think there's something to be said for the fact that we have, we received a bid that was below what we had anticipated, and that combining the projects over time will save the city money. And I understand the counter argument, but I do believe we've also received a number of votes of support and expressions of support from the community in trying to make this park more accessible and safer for residents, while simultaneously making the stormwater management piece better and more effective.
Alder Goforth, and then Alder Moore, and then Alder Wood.
Yes, I do understand those concerns. I think we did have one other finding of discovery, which was the purchase of San Damiano that came in during this process, and after this had been budgeted for. And so I just feel like I'd rather see what we're going to be doing with San Damiano, which is 1 block away from this park, before we, I'll make this park have, I guess, before we upgrade this park. So.
Alder Moore.
Yeah, I would just say, again, this is a shared expense, given, because of the stormwater work, which has been covered significantly by grants. And again, a huge percentage of the work that's being done here is restoration work. I mean, I was down, as I'm sure a lot of people were on a nice weekend. I was down at Stonebridge again this weekend, and the pagoda is sitting in in a puddle. The hardscape that Alder Goforth is referring to has shrunk significantly since this plan was first started. And really the only, as I said, the vast majority of work that's being done is restoration work because of the storm work, as well as because of a shoreline and around the pagoda that's already significantly deteriorated. And really the only addition to this park, it's not like we're putting all kinds of bells and whistles and fancy things in there. The only addition to this park is ADA accessibility, which, I mean, I just can't imagine us ever redoing any park without accommodating that as a community. And so, I understand that in the best of all worlds, it would be nice if we could just put the stormwater thing in there and pretend that everything else doesn't need attention, or that we could somehow throw some grass seed down and that would be the end of it, but that's not the reality. And it will in fact be saving us money. And again, we're not doing a major rebuild here.
Alder Wood.
Thanks. Yeah, well, the Parks Board did make recommendations to sort of pare back what was the work being done in the parks or in the park, and to remove some of the hardscape. But, if you're still against the park side of this project, that's fine. But right now what we have in front of us is a combined bid. So we either accept this bid or we reject it and decide not to do the project. I mean, the only way we could do stormwater without doing the park side part of it would be to rebid the entire thing. And I'm sure we would get a higher kind of unit cost if we split them up. The other thing is, if we're going to do the park, we obviously want to do it at the same time we do the stormwater, because otherwise you're having equipment into the park 2 different times, you're paying mobilization costs twice. And also, let's not forget that part of this project includes the pagoda. So and that's an alternate to the bids. So if we reject the bid, then we're not doing any of it, at least not right now. So I think it's a really good project all the way around. I really like the way the park side of it turned out, but right now what we have in front of us is the low bidder, Joe Daniels, on a combined project.
Dan, did you want to say something? And then Alder Groupie and then Alder Thomas.
Yes, I'd just like to remind everybody, the main driver for the stormwater is MS4 permit related to efforts that we have to comply with for REACH 64. This is our first phase in probably a 4-phase approach over the next 15 to 20 years. So this has to move forward as far as stormwater concerns go.
Alder Groupie.
I'm not sure what the appropriate protocol is. Called a question. I'd like to move to vote on this and end discussion.
Okay, Brian, should we just vote then? Is that
Non-debatable. Call the question is non-debatable.
okay? Does call the question need a second? I've never had a call the question as happened. So
I feel so political and savvy.
I know.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, Doug, what?
I'll second if it needs one.
Will this clerk please call the roll?
1 second, please. Okay.
Alder Thomas, my apologies for cutting off comments.
Okay. Alder Thomas,
Do we need to vote on this? I didn't think a call the question was votable.
I need to pull out the book to read it because it is not a common thing for us. Hold on.
Is the city attorney still here?
Yeah.
All right.
He could answer that question, couldn't he?
Okay, this says calling the question by single member does not in and of itself require that the discussion and debate on an issue be closed. The chairperson, which would be you, Mary, may regard a single member's call for the question as a request to ask the group if the group is ready to vote. If, however, any other member desires that the discussion continue, it can only be closed by a formal motion to close debate, which you have made. Such a motion requires a second and an affirmative vote of 2/3 of those voting to pass.
Okay, so we are
Aye.
voting on whether or not to call the question to end.
Right, so I would suggest we have a roll call vote on closing the debate.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll on closing the debate?
Alder Thomas,
Aye.
Alder Groupie,
Aye.
Alder Moore,
Aye.
Alder Goforth,
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
okay, Alder Kerr.
All right. Would the clerk please call the roll on the resolution as read, the award of the contract for the Stonebridge Park Improvement Project?
Alder Coor,
Aye.
Alder Thomas,
Aye.
Alder Groupie,
Aye.
Alder Moore,
Aye.
Alder Goforth.
Abstain.
Brian, isn't there I think you need to be present rather than abstain unless you have a specific reason to abstain. Is that correct, Brian?
So if you're choosing to not vote on the motion, just say present.
Present. Okay, thank you, Brian.
I'm sorry, your vote, Alder Goforth?
Present.
She's voting present, so just write down present.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Doug,
Aye.
aye, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item, C, consideration of resolution 21-3-2467, award of contract for the Gateway Green Stormwater Improvement Project put forth by the Public Works Committee. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move approval.
Second.
I'll sec.
Mr. Stefani.
Thank you, Mayor. The only update I have for this is to let you all know that at the March 3rd Public Works Committee meeting, they did recommend approval for this project as well. Hamburg contractors provided the low bid and the amount is $799,008.50.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood,
Aye.
Alder Coor,
Aye.
Alder Thomas,
Aye.
Alder Groupie,
Aye.
Alder Moore,
Aye.
Alder Goforth.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item D, consideration of resolution 21-3-2468, award of contract for the water tower painting project, also put forth by the Public Works Committee. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Dan.
Okay, thank you. As well, at the March 3rd meeting, Public Works Committee voted to approve V&T Painting LLC for the bid amount of $68,500 and bid alternate 1 for $5,000. We will not be proceeding with stenciling the name Monona on the tower. Seeking your recommended or your approval for this project.
Alder Thomas.
Yeah, 2 questions. Well, comment and a question. I would suggest that when we prepare the packets, that we include the committee, which we haven't done lately, that we include the committee recommendations in the packets so that the council knows what the committee recommended. Then my next question is, are the financials that are in this packet correct? Does it not include the stenciling, or is that included in this packet?
All the information that we received in the bid is included in the packet. Both alternates are spelled out in the bid summary and the bid tabulation. I guess what
So do we have to amend is my question.
I don't know why you would have to amend, Alder Thomas. The request is for the bid for VT painting for $68,500 and bid alternate 1 of $5,000. The recommendation from the Public Works Committee is not coming forward for bid alternate 2.
Okay, but the council has the option of overruling the committee.
You are correct. Yes.
So the council should know that we sent it out with that as part of the bid, but the committee is recommending not to approve that part of the bid.
Which is the painting of the name Monona on the water tower.
Yes.
And is it also the story that the other water tower already has Monona painted on it? And
Yes.
that's the reason that they're close together and they decided not to do it on both? Is that the reasoning?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Alder Groupie and then Alder Wood.
I was just going to offer clarification in case it wasn't clear to Director Stefani that we were just wondering if we needed to amend, if painting the name Monona was specifically included in the contract and costs, if we needed to amend that to remove it.
But it was a separate item.
Yep,
correct?
sounds like no.
Alder Wood.
Well, the way I read the resolution, it says 68,500 plus a combined alternate bid total of 7,500. And Dan just referenced 5,000 for the alternate bid. So I'm not clear if we do need to amend it or not.
What is the 7,500 for?
That's the combined alternate bid 1 and alternate bid 2 combined total. So it would be $5,000 for bid alternate 1 that I would seek approval for, in addition to 68,500.
So we do need to amend it so it doesn't include the 2,500.
Correct.
Okay.
Move to amend.
Second.
A second. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we are back to the original. Now we are going to be talking, we'll be voting on the low bid of painting for $68,500 and just the one alternate bid of $5,000. So any further discussion on this? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Moore,
Aye.
Alder Goforth,
Aye.
Alder Wood,
Aye.
Alder Coor,
Aye.
Alder Thomas,
Aye.
Alder Groupie.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, E, consideration of resolution 21-3-2471, amending the capital budget for the installation of B-cycle stations at Grand Crossing and Schluter Parks, put forth by the Parks and Recreation Board. Before we get into discussion of this, I guess why don't I ask for a motion and then I want to explain something first.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay. Before we get into the discussion, Alder Goforth last time raised this issue of our delinquent property taxes and how they might affect that. And I thought later I should have explained this at the time in case anyone doesn't understand that. But what happens is that we collect the property taxes for the 2021 budget through January, and then everything is sent on to the county. Then at the beginning of February, the county takes over collecting all of those property taxes that are still outstanding. They keep track of it. If we get to some point, I think it's mid-August or the beginning of August, if there is anything still outstanding, and the amount that's outstanding right now is not unusual compared to any other year. What happens at the beginning of August then is that the county makes us whole for anything that is still outstanding. They send us a payment to cover of all that. And then in turn, they take care of going after the delinquent property tax person, and they also can keep any fees or charges that are collected for that. And if worse comes to worse, sometimes they do after 3 years or so. That's when you hear about a sheriff's sale where they may sell the property to take care of the taxes. So I think this is really a non-issue, but I just wanted to explain so all of you are aware, because I know back when I was an alder, at least initially, I was not aware that's how delinquent taxes were handled, that it never makes any difference for us. Eventually, we do get the money from the county. So, okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Does anyone have to sit? Alder Thomas?
Yeah, I have a technical question, and I'm going to ask Mark about this because we talked about this today. We are taking, and I'm not objecting to funding this, but I think that the funding source is incorrect because we are taking money from the Huska lighting, which I think technically no longer exists. As of January 1, that money went into the capital fund balance. So we need to take money from the capital fund balance. All of our money lapses into the fund balance at the end of the year. So I would ask Mark to give us the correct funding source for this motion.
Yes, so Kathy is correct. This project was completed by year end. It really kind of a miscode on the fiscal note. It really comes from fund balance. So after when a project is completed, that money doesn't get spent somewhere else. It just goes into the fund balance and gets allocated out through the council. So what so it should come from capital fund balance and not Huska Park lighting.
Yeah.
Because the project is completed.
It's the same money. It's just a different account number, a different line item numbered.
Correct.
And actually, the same thing happened with the 15,000 allocated for B-Cycle last year, right? That's in the fund balance as well.
Yep.
Oh, that one, the project was still kind of ongoing, so it wasn't completed yet. So that money, was
still a separate item then, even though
yes.
that's 2020.
The difference was the Huska lighting was paid for and everything was completed.
Okay.
And it was completely done.
Okay. Alder Thomas.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the past, what we would do if at the end of the year there was something that was incomplete, they would move to carry it forward as part of the budget, and it became part of the new budget. But lacking that, it goes into the fund balance, same amount, same place, different title.
No, we didn't actually move to carry it forward, though, did we?
No, we did not. But it was in process of being negotiated at the time. So that's why that one didn't go to the fund balance. We probably should have. I mean, I guess that probably should have been what we should do.
Anything else? Alder Moore.
Yeah, I wanted to vocalize support for this proposal because as most people, or as we all know, B-Cycle was originally intended for our Grand Crossing Park. It was in the original design. And I know that we found it, cost prohibitive at the time because they were charging a lot more. And I'm thrilled to see that B-Cycle has reduced their rates. And I want to thank Park and Rec and Jake in particular for continuing to pursue the corporate sponsorship to make it even that more amenable. And I also found it interesting that one of the people that wrote in support of this proposal today or yesterday indicated that that she also is somebody that goes up, has to either drive up or walk up to Obrick to be able to then commute by B-Cycle to UW. Which she does regularly. And so, and I can't remember if there was a chart last time around the number of people that actually use the B-Cycles to commute as an alternative transportation. But one of the other things that she said that I also didn't realize was that UW subsidizes the memberships for people, and I'm seeing Alder Kerr is shaking her head. And I'd be curious to know also how many employers actually do that, that see it as a viable means of transportation. Because I think, you know, I think as long as we're challenged with mass transit, which we clearly are in this community, you know, we've worked, you know, I think the last proposal we got from Madison Metro was to just make a few stops on Broadway and Monona beyond what they do now, was somewhere in the over 400,000 annually, which is, you know, and we keep going back to them hoping that they're going to be a better broker to provide more mass transit possibilities for us. But as long as that continues to be a challenge, you know, I think anything that we can do to support alternatives to car transit is a good thing.
You know, before I call on anyone else, I neglected to ask Missy if she had anything to add. I think you're here in place of Jake for a while. Is that correct, Missy? I don't know if you had anything to add to this.
Yeah, so we have gotten word on some confirmations on sponsorship and advertising, which we have Avid, Forage, Buck and Honey's, WPS, and the currently in with talks of two other businesses, MG&E and Skipper Buds, to make up the difference, and that funding for use of the B-cycles in Monona. So we do have 5 confirmed with 2 still in the possibility. We have a meeting with MG&E on the 23rd, and then we're hearing from Skipper Buds by the end of the week.
Now, are those going to cover the annual fees?
Those would be help cover the annual fees in addition to the 30,000 that is in the fund balance. So it'd be helping with the annual cost, the 3-year contract.
What is the 30,000 we're talking about?
The 22.5 that we had, or sorry, the 15,000 that we had already in the balance, and then 7.5.
Okay. Okay. Alder Thomas, then Alder Wood.
I meant to mention before, I actually meant to give kudos to Jake and his staff, because we got some information about the fundraising, which their effort is pretty impressive. But what's more impressive is that, and Missy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Brian, but I asked how much money, what percentage you get from donations and from sponsorships. And I think it's around 50%, and the national average is 35%. So you guys do a bang up job on going out and getting sponsors. So we thank you for that.
I think that's the total income that they bring in for fees and everything is about 50% of their annual budget.
Mary's correct on that, where the national average recouped on fees is that 30%. So it's not necessarily just sponsorship, but we wouldn't be able to do that without having support of our local business partners as well, which is, I think, a really great opportunity for us to have, you know, that connection between local business and local government.
And you do, I know you do a lot with sponsorships. Jake has a lot of different packages and opportunities for everything, all of his programs. Alder Wood.
Yeah, first I wanted to give a shout out to Jake and Missy. The promotional material they sent out to us today shows explaining to potential potential buyers the various sponsorships is really an impressive piece. And then also, when we started this, looking at this, the price was much higher. They came back a few months ago, I think, with a considerably lower cost than originally. But Parks Board pushed Jake to go back to them again, and came back with yet a slightly better price. And I just wanted to also thank Travis Yeoman. Good to see you, Travis, for coming. And his comments I thought were really excellent about the B-cycle being about accessibility for people who maybe ordinarily, either don't or can't ride a pedal power bike, and to view it in the context, not just for as recreational, but also complementing public transit.
Alder Groupie.
Yeah, just very briefly, I second Alder Wood's comments. I think the Parks Department and Jake and Missy in particular worked really hard to get a good deal on this project. Additionally, in our back and forth about, the questions that the Parks Board had about the model, how B-Cycle reaps a lot of the profits of this installation, they frankly, in previous contracts as a startup company, were very generous to try to get their name on the map. And now they are really just not even breaking even with the money that they're bringing in. So they're a phenomenal company. This is a really important project. And when people have questions about the cost, it's because we are trying to sustain this business that's going to do Monona a big favor. And I think a very important project by installing these 2 B-Cycle stations, but it also keeps their business model alive and afloat. And so it really is a partnership in many ways, not only between us and our community and those, public-private partnerships with sponsorships, but also between us and B-Cycle, which I think is really important to note. They have a sustainable business model. They've given us great rates on, daily and monthly and annual packages. The batteries of the bikes are recyclable. I mean, they just have really put in a lot of thoughtful details into the conversations we've had and into the business model that they're providing us. So I'm grateful to them and to the Parks Department for all their work on this.
Thank you. Alder Goforth.
Yeah, I think, there's no arguing that B-Cycle is awesome and brings a lot of benefits to our community and to people who maybe can't afford an e-bike or are looking for cleaner ways to get to work than driving. I was wondering if, so Missy said we had 5 confirmed advertisers. I was wondering what the total is of those advertisers, the total revenue.
Let me just add up my math real quick here, Christy, for you. We're at 5,500 with the total currently confirmed.
That's great. I was wondering how the kiosk pricing was determined. I had asked that by email. I didn't get that. Are we able to set those rates, or does B-Cycle set those rates?
We are able to set those rates. I do have Helen here on the call if she wants to chime in on anything else that we're talking about regarding B-Cycle. But we were given the base price from Helen, and then we were able to work our packaging deal based off of the information and pricing she gave us.
Okay, because I was thinking, the kiosk pricing, I mean, that's like a mini billboard. That 1,500 rate seemed kind of low. I know typically you would, calculate the number of people that flow through that space, and that would see that advertising to calculate that pricing. It seems like that pricing at Grand Crossing could come up to almost $5,000 to help cover the cost of this. I don't know if that was considered at all. I was also thinking of, it sounds like this is happening down at the Current or at the riverfront. It could almost be like a business improvement district project where all the businesses chip in, because they definitely stand to benefit by having a B-Cycle station there. And it sounds like that's almost happening. But that might be another way to kind of raise some funds to make this happen, because it would be a great asset and definitely help close the link in the Monona gap. So I don't know if there's anything I can do to help with that. I would be happy to. I think, another consideration would, B-Cycle doesn't just touch people in Monona. It touches a lot of people in Madison. It touches people all throughout Dane County who want to ride the Monona Lake Loop, and beyond, those people who come to stay in Madison and visit here. So I think, boy, I know through Travis's bike network connection, he has a great network there. Myself, I do through the Wisconsin Bike Fed and Free Bikes for Kids. I'm also connected to Bike Fitchburg, Madison Bikes, Sun Prairie Moves, the Healthy Kids Collaborative. I was wondering if anyone would be open to us launching a GoFundMe account to try to help offset the costs of the $23,000 installation, because I really think you know, in this area, our bicycling crowd is incredibly generous. Bicycling is typically an elite audience primarily. And it's people who want other people to experience bicycling and experience the joy that we all get to experience. I think a lot of people might be willing to help fund this to offset the costs. And so if anyone is open to this, and I don't know if we have to make this decision tonight, because I feel like we could probably raise these funds I mean, it is a challenging fundraising environment, but boy, I think through our networks, we could probably raise a significant amount of money in a short amount of time. I don't know if anyone's open to that idea to help offset the cost, or if maybe that was explored at Parks Board.
Alder Wood, did you have anything to add?
Well, we did not talk about that idea at Parks Board, but if Alder Goforth or anybody else can raise money and to have it donated to the city to go to the capital costs, that's great. I don't think we should set up a GoFundMe account, but we don't need to do anything unless you're going to say if we don't raise the money, we won't do the project. But yeah, I mean, the fundraising efforts can go on after we approve this tonight, assuming that we do.
Alder Thomas.
If someone wants to set up a GoFundMe account on their own, I think we can't stop them, but I think it can't have any connection to the city. I mean, the city it can't appear that the city is supporting it. It can't appear that the city wants it done, because people here will say, you know, there is the city out begging for money. What do my taxes pay for? So we have to be very careful about if somebody's going to do it, about not including any connection whatsoever with the city.
Alder Goforth.
You know, I don't want to nominate Travis, but he's very passionate about this cause. And, you know, so I would, help promote that at all if that's something he'd like to undertake. I also just, for me, I guess it is a determining factor. I want to know a little more data. Like, I didn't get to see any demographic data of who is using the B-cycles, or could we put it out in the newsletter and ask how many people in Monona feel they would use the B-cycles? Because I know it's definitely going to benefit a lot of people in Madison. It's going to bring people to Grand Crossing. So I know those businesses will definitely benefit. I do have some concerns about the parking challenges it might create at Schluter. But yeah, for me, there is a financial, we're in an economic downturn, and there are a lot of people that are struggling. And for me, the finances of this are, that is a factor. I have to think that the majority of Monona is probably not going to use the B-cycles, but I can only make those guesses because I don't have that information. So if there's any way we can collect some data, I would really appreciate that. Maybe through the newsletter. I know it only reaches, it's about 667 people, but it's something to base our information on.
Well, we certainly have other ways of collecting information than through the newsletter. Alder Kuhr, and then I think Devin from MESBA had something to add. So Alder Kuhr, if you want to speak first, and then Devin.
I'll defer my time to Devin.
Devin.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And Alder Kuhr. So just to kind of briefly build on Missy's comments and Alder Goforth's follow-up question, to give a little bit of background information. Back in August, September, I had met with Helen, and B-Cycle had kind of initially approached about the idea. And so I had made those introductions within the Parks Department between Jake and Missy, and then began making some of, not all by any means, but some of those connections on the financial assistance and the sponsorships, and just setting up some email introductions. And so I would say that that was certainly successful in kind of the early stages. And while we don't want to rely on that by any means, I would say that's something that we as an organization are happy to continue to provide in terms of facilitating those conversations. So as far as setting up GoFundMes and that sort of thing, I would say this is also an option that is always open as well to, at the very least, explore. Obviously, we can't, force any area businesses to contribute, but we can always set up those conversations.
Thank you, Devin. Jennifer, did you still want to say something? Okay. And I think we can certainly approve this tonight or not. And in terms of funding, if money is raised, it can go into the general fund to make up for what is spent on the approval tonight. So Missy, what would you like to add?
I mean, I would like to add that we are on a time frame. I don't know if any of you have been following Madison B-Cycle, but they are currently in the process of putting out all of their bikes and their stations currently. So if we, decide to table or not move forward with this, we only push them out farther to get their equipment into the facility. So I know that Helen and her staff would probably appreciate an answer sooner than later on that, since they're going to be pushing out on, their work schedule.
In fact, that was part of our consideration. We had originally started this for immediate approval, but extended it to this week because we knew this was kind of the absolute end. Alder Wood and then Alder Goforth.
Yeah, just going back to the beginning when Alder Thomas suggested the amendment in the language on the source of funds, that I would be, as the second, would be willing to accept that as a friendly amendment.
Could you, I state what that was, so for Joan?
It is that it is the capital general fund and not the Huska Lighting.
Okay.
And I defer to, I think that the bicycle thing is iffy, but I think I think Mark said they were working on that over the contingency, but I think going forward, we need to carry stuff forward that we mean to carry forward.
Okay. Alder Goforth, did you have something else?
Yeah, I was just wondering if Helen, could we wait a month until we try to raise some money to offset the installation fee?
I mean, that's not up to me at this point. I would say I will bring us back to 2017 when we initially had this conversation with the city of Monona and have been working on a deal stringently for 4 years now. So I would like to see an answer if we can get one. We've worked really hard on, coming to the table with some really fair offers. We have some new technology that we are launching this year, and we're offering free docks as part of our proposal to the city of Monona to be part of a testing pilot group for in-dock charging. I think we've thrown our best hat in the ring, and I'd like to see approval today if we can get that. We do have to order our stations and our bikes, and the more we delay the order of those things, the longer it will take to get those installed and on the ground. To be able to truly pilot this year and show what a success it can be, it would only behoove us to get these stations installed as soon as possible so that we can have some stringent data, good data to show you next year on just how successful these stations were.
Okay. All right, if no one else, Missy, did you want to say something else?
I was just going to say, the longer we push this out and the longer we don't have this, it devalues a season pass membership for those that are purchasing. So if we push it out a month, up 2 months, I mean, the bike season, riding season is so short as it is here in Wisconsin, you're cutting into that profit margin of what they're already looking at doing.
True.
Call a question.
Okay. So this time we can just call the question, correct? Since it wasn't seconded or anything, is that okay? Will the clerk please call the roll? You're on mute, Joan.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Alder Groupie.
Aye.
Okay. Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Goforth.
Nay.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Coor.
Aye.
Alder Thomas.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now we will move on to new business, and I think just in deference to our team of young men who are here to add any input we might want about the mountain bike trail. Does anyone mind if I move that up to the top of the new business agenda?
Please do.
Okay. Sorry, guys, but this has been real educational, hasn't it? Item C, consideration of resolution 21-3-2475, approval to construct a mountain bike trail in Maywood Park, put forth by the Parks and Recreation Board. And Missy, were you going to address this, or is Jake? I don't see him, but I know Jake has some family things to take care of tonight, which is why he was going to be in and out. So Missy, if you'd like to start, and then Doug, if you have anything to address.
First off, I want to thank you for moving this up in the agenda. I'm sure the boys who have school in the morning will definitely appreciate going a little earlier than originally planned, and we want to get them to bed so they can be bright-eyed for school tomorrow. But if we can actually turn over host access, the boys do have a short 5-slide presentation to get you all up to speed on what the process has been from from November until now. And then it over to questions.
Who should I turn over access to, Missy?
Bree Chappa, please.
1 second here. Okay, Bree, you should have host capability.
Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, Jack.
This is our City Council meeting slide presentation. First, we would like to thank the City Council for letting us present. I'm Jack Oliver, and I am 12 years old, and I really like climbing and jumping.
I'm Miles Peterson. I am 11 years old, and I am really excited for the mountain biking season to start.
My name is Bennett. I am 10 years old. I'm in 5th grade, and I really like jumping on my slack line and building trails with Miles and Jack. This is our land acknowledgement, and we keep on sharing this land acknowledgement because this land used to belong to someone else, and we really want to show them some respect. The parks in our city were first Ho-Chunk land. In the past, the government took away that land from the Ho-Chunk tribe. They also got forced to give up the land and leave the state. We respect the Ho-Chunk land and their nation.
This is our updated trail proposal and what we're proposing to the City Council. It's addressing some concerns from neighbors and the community about location for child safety, intersecting the sliding hill, and preservation of open spaces. These are our solutions. Moving the trailhead north of the parking lot, removing the trail from green space south of the basketball courts, and majority of the trail in or next to forested area.
These are some design solutions. These are some design solutions for water drainage and soil erosion. Falling tree branches in the forested area. In the forest, we are going to be working on guided drainage and tree management. If you don't know what tree management is, it means taking out all of the junk trees, and that will help make other trees healthier and help with the drainage. In the non-forested areas, we are going to have the trail either elevated or pitched. If you don't know what pitched means, it means building on a slant.
This is the help that we have. These are the people willing to help us. Jeremy Whittick from the Global Action Sports Solutions, Mike Rapayak from the International Mountain Bike Association, Vance McCaw from Trek, and Capital Off-Roads Pathfinders. Jeremy is willing to help with trail planning and building. Mike is willing to help with training and teaching us. Vance, if you don't know who he is Trek's pro trail designer who is willing to help with designing our trail. And Dan, who is willing to help with training, teaching, and building our trail. We have the following possible donations and finance options. A $10,000 matched donation from Saris, a possible grant from Dane County. Jeremy and Vance are donating time for a design, and Jeremy and Dan are donating time for building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of the different site sets that you've done, and wow, great job.
Really nice.
Alder Groupie and then Alder Coor.
We've said it a couple of times in the Parks Board meetings, but this project is so awesome. And it's just such a treasure and thrill to see these young gentlemen putting forth this very thoughtfully researched project, one that they were very responsive to public comments about. And I wanted to make a point that not everyone may be aware of, which is that we had a resident on Maywood Road, Debbie Skubel, who came to our last public input session, and she had a lot of specific concerns that she had sent to the boys and to the Parks Board about the mountain bike trail and, different aspects of it being in Maywood Park. And after they so thoughtfully addressed her concerns and sort of mitigated any, worries she might have about, different components of the trail and what it would look like and whether or not it would, increase parking needs or damage any of the, the swale or the underbrush in the forested part of the park. She wrote the Parks Board to let us know that she was just so grateful for having had the opportunity to solicit public input and really had changed her mind about the project and offered her support just based on all of the work they did to try to address her concerns specifically. So this is a really tremendous feat by some very motivated young people. And, it's about them, not me, but I feel sad a lot of the time these days, just based on our current circumstances. And this has really been such a bright spot in, all that we do as, civic leaders. And I'm just really excited to vote yes for it tonight and to see all the public support for it.
Alder Coor, were you next?
Well, first, I just wanted to say thank you to Boy specifically for including the land acknowledgement within your presentation. That's something that was very impressive to me and important, and I'm grateful that you guys acknowledged that. I'm very excited about this project. I think you boys did a wonderful job. I shouldn't call you boys, you're young men, and you've certainly shown that you're mature and put together, and you've done a lot of research. You've negotiated working with professionals, which impresses me as well. I would agree with Alder Groupie's assessment, the fact that you were able to make changes to your plan to meet the needs of the neighbors, and so much so that the neighbors reached out and said thank you. That doesn't happen, and so you guys should be really proud of yourselves for that. And so I'm very impressed. I'm very grateful, and I'm excited to approve this when it comes to our vote.
Alder Thomas, then Alder.
Well, it is clear that what you young men have done is impressive, and you're planning, but most importantly, what really strikes me is that your ability to take a look at the concerns people had and value the fact that when you get a lot of people bringing different ideas together, you can improve upon what you're doing. And we would be a much better world if many adults could behave the way you young men have handled this project. It is indeed impressive, and you are to be commended. And I noticed something on there about matching funds, and I can talk to Kate Oliver, but if we need to raise some funds, I will be happy to work with you young men and your parents to help raise some matching funds for your group, because that's the final step. And it's just so incredible what you have done. I cannot tell you how impressive you are, and I attribute that to the fact that you have incredible parents. So thank you for what you've done, and thank you for doing this for the city and for the the kids around who are interested and adults in mountain biking.
And I would suggest you take up Alder Thomas on that offer because she is an ace fundraiser. You definitely want to involve her. Missy, if you had something to add, and then Nancy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just to clarify a little bit on the funding piece. So the grant that we were talking about is a Dane County Parks Initiative grant, and it is also a 50-50 match. So we did get confirmation from Chris at Saris, which is a bike company, and he is willing to donate that matching grant to match the Dane County. So that is some where our true funding is coming from.
Even better. Thank you, Missy. Alder Moore.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations to all you guys too. This is super impressive. And like everybody else, I'm impressed that you know you really worked with the neighborhood to improve it. So I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to see you flying around it. Won't be me, but I'm super excited for you. I just am wondering. I know that there was, aside from the neighbors who had their minds changed because of how great these guys were, and the proposal was, there were also some neighbors that said that they had not received the notice initially, and I'm just wondering what we did to follow up with them, whether or not they came to the Parks Board meeting, or if in fact they did find the notice, but they get the notice, but then they pitched it in the you know, in the circular file, so to speak, by accident or something like that. Did we ever follow up with the people that said that they had not received a notice? And if so, what was the outcome of that?
Yeah, so if you saw in the packet, I did do a list of addresses that we did send out the letter to.
Right.
With that being said, we have not received any return mail back to City Hall to say that, you know, we had wrong addresses or wrong information on it.
Okay.
So I do think that the majority of people that did not receive the information did end up attending the public input meeting and Park and Rec Board meetings after that, but we did not receive any back to City Hall for unreturned. So the addresses that were listed were sent, and what happened after we put them in the mail, I'm not quite sure.
Great. Thank you, Missy. I appreciate it. Great job, you guys.
Alder, go forth.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have said all of what I want to say. Yeah, great job. Really excited for the project. My son and I are counting the days to get out there and ride with you, and maybe we'll see you out on the track. I wanted to let you know if you need help mobilizing some volunteers, I'm happy to work my networks and bring people over, because I know, you know, a lot of us bikers like to get dirty and build trails. And then I just wanted to thank you also for your patience, because I know these kinds of projects take a long time, and you did it and you persevered, and great job, everybody. And I'm really glad you were able to work out the issues with the neighbors. That was really important.
Alder Wood.
I'm not going to repeat what others have said. They've said it really well. I think Jack, Miles, and Bennett are definitely to be congratulated, not only for having a really cool idea, but turning it into a project, making changes to the project. And now there's like this whole mountain biking community that's excited about the project. And I think it's just going to turn out really well. But I also wanted to shout out to Missy. She did a ton of work on this. Also, I think if you kind of go through the packet of all the different steps and meetings and so forth, that she was really involved too. So thanks, Missy.
Okay, anyone else have any other questions? This will come back for approval at the next meeting. Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and thank you for your patience. Next time you'll be on at the beginning of the meeting, so it will not be as long. Okay, we'll move back up to the top of the new business agenda. Item A, consideration of resolution 21-3-2472, award of contract for the Springhaven Pagoda Rehabilitation Project, put forth by the Landmarks Commission. And is Doug still here?
Yes. Good evening, council members. So I'm here seeking approval of the Springhaven Pagoda contract award for the rehabilitation project. Just as a little bit of background here, a consultant engineer was hired to prepare the bid documents, including both drawings and technical specifications. These were reviewed by the Landmarks Commission and approved for issue. The bids closed on March 5th and 3 bids were received. These were reviewed by the consulting engineer for completeness and all deemed acceptable. Joe Daniels with a low bid at just over 31,000. The bid tab is included in the meeting packet. They're also the low bid for the park project, and it's likely that some of the efficiencies and cost savings came from just already being on site. In speaking to the engineer, the main difference between the bids is the casting technique to develop the concrete roof itself. But he deemed that all methods were appropriate for the casting of this roof, and all will give good oversight and sort of quality control throughout the process. So the Landmarks Commission at their March meeting recommended approval to City Council. You'll see there were a couple conditions that they wanted to sort of make sure were included, and they were included in the draft resolution. Specifically the color of the concrete, which was already included in the technical specifications, as well as just the placement and you know the intricacy of the work of taking the roof off from the existing columns, all of which are included in the document, but I added again to the draft resolution as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone? Alder Wood?
Yeah, not a question for Doug, but since we already approved the main contract for the Stonebridge work, it seems like it would make sense to go ahead and suspend the rules and vote on this piece of it also. So
Second.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this?
We didn't vote on, we need to vote on them.
Sorry, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, now is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I guess we need a roll call for that, Joan?
I'm back. Okay, Alder Tom.
Just Alder Coeur, did you have a?
I had a question. I didn't know we were.
I'm sorry. I should.
We're going to.
What's your question?
I was curious about the funding for this. Now, is this coming from parks or is this funding from Landmarks, or where's the source?
I believe that this was included in the scope and the budget for the park and coming from Parks' budget.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, then Joan, could you call the roll?
Alder Thomas.
Aye.
Alder Groupie.
Aye.
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Goforth.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Coeur.
Aye.
All right.
Motion is approved. Moving on to item 2B, consideration of resolution 21-3-2473, award of contract for the Woodland Park parking lot and trail improvements put forth by the Park and Rec Board. Jake.
Thank you, Mayor. We're seeking approval on award of contract for improvements at Woodland Park. This project was approved in the 2020 capital budget, included a 50% generous donation from residents John and Peggy Traver. This project was identified in our 2014 to 2018 Park and Open Space Plan, received 5 bids on this project. Low apparent bidder is Blaze Landscaping Contracting. Enclosed in your packet is documentation on the project, the bid tab, the opinion of award of opinion from our landscape architect, and staff would recommend this for approval as well. The contractor did work at Wildhaven, this project is within what was budgeted. And we're excited to have some off-street parking available at Woodland Park.
Questions, anyone? Alder Moore.
I don't have a question. I just want to echo what Jake said, which is that I think it's just a tremendous contribution on the Travers part to make this possible, and they've just done so much for this community, and this is just one more time of them really stepping up. So I just wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah, they are in large part responsible for the condition of that park, in addition to what our park staff has done. That's amazing. Anyone else? Okay, well then this will be on the agenda next time for approval. Thank you, Jake. Moving on, consideration of resolution 21-3-2474, authorization to apply for the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Local Grant Assistance Program, put forth by the Parks and Rec Director. And this is started for immediate approval since the applications are due May 1st. So is there a
Move
motion?
to suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Is there a motion to approve?
Move
Approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Jake.
This is part of the application process in order to apply for stewardship and federal funding for the acquisition of the San Damiano property. Like the mayor said, these grants are due by May 1st. Also included in your packet is a letter from our grant specialist with an extension to finish our park and open space plan, which is another requirement for this grant program. So this was unanimously approved or recommended for approval at the March 9th Parks and Recreation Board meeting. And it is one of the main criteria requirements of this grant program for acquisition reimbursement costs through Wisconsin DNR.
Alder Thomas.
Yeah, Jake, you weren't here earlier. And as I said at finance, I'm always picking on you about how much money you're spending. And I wanted to thank you for all of the smart things you do to help raise money to lower the cost to the taxpayers. I think we just don't realize how much effort and how much money you really pull in. And so thank you.
I'll second that. Jennifer.
Do we have a sense on how much we're going to ask for, or is that not clear yet?
Certainly it depends on reauthorization of the stewardship program itself. And part of that bucket includes acquisition and stew, and then some of it's federal. I think, we're in that $1 million ballpark range, with hopefully the majority of it coming from LawCon, and then the rest of it be stewardship. So it all depend on the funding, but I think given the amount of purchase, the purchase and the match that we already have with what the city is paying, and talking with our grant specialist numerous occasions, I think that's in that range of what's probably doable.
Just concerned because we're heading into a new biennium budget and joint finance is going to be sticky.
Yeah, so the LawCon funding is not part of joint finance review. So the acquisition reimbursement through the LawCon pod is not eligible for joint finance review and scrutiny.
Positive.
Thanks, Jake.
Anyone else? Okay, if there aren't any other questions, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Last item E, consideration of ordinance 3-21-738 requiring a three-way stop controlled intersection at Nichols Road and Winnequa Road, put forth by the Public Works Committee.
I'll
Mr.
move it.
Stani.
Oh,
Well, we're not approving. We're
no
just.
problem. Sorry. I'm just so eager to get in there because people keep.
Boy, it's been a real contest tonight. Dan, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. At the March 3rd meeting, we introduced this topic to the Public Works Committee, and we come away from that meeting with a recommended approval to City Council. Tonight, it's on the council agenda for the first read for your review. And I did include the ordinance document that was drafted. It was presented to the Public Works Committee, and it was approved as to form by Attorney Cole. I also included some traffic information that our department collected prior to taking it to the Public Works Committee. It should have been in your packet for review, but I'd like to point out that, you know, with regards to making this intersection a three-way stop controlled intersection, you've probably heard before that we shouldn't put stop signs in to control speed. And I don't want to give the impression that this request is to control speed. That said, everybody knows the curve in the road north of the Nichols intersection at Winnequa Road. And so pointing out the speed coming through that curve, in addition to the poor sight lines as someone sitting on Nichols looking north, those kind of go hand in hand. So I think the approach is more of a safety related item versus controlling speed, which is frowned upon when you look at the MUTCD. So that said, if you look at the numbers, the average speed, 85th percentile speed that comes through there is about 30 miles an hour. We see about 800 cars a day. And as Brad noted in the data that is presented here, he mentions, notice the times. So there's 6 a.m., 12 noon, 2 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 p.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 9 p.m., and again at 1 p.m. All of those speeds are 40 miles an hour or greater. So, and those are key traffic times in that neighborhood. Another point of consideration is to keep in mind that both of these roads are collector streets, which are streets that will move traffic from your local roads, from your residential neighborhoods to collectors, and then move them onto the arterials. So we've had a few phone calls over the years from residents asking for opportunities or ways to make this intersection safer. And one way to do that is to put in a three-way stop intersection here. You have the bike traffic, the pedestrian traffic that uses the street, in addition to the lanes of traffic going in either direction. So it kind of almost feels like a bottleneck at this intersection. So we're coming to you, the first read tonight, to present approval for a three-way controlled intersection here.
I also heard from several neighbors sent emails that I think were those in the Public Works packet asking for this.
Yes, and those were forwarded on. I'm not sure if they made this packet, but if they're not in here, we can definitely make sure they're in here for the second read.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Doug?
Yeah, Dan, do you know what the traffic count is on Nichols Road at that point?
We did not measure Nichols Road, but we can get the box out there and have that data for the next meeting. We measured just to the north by the map. You see where the red star is. That's where we had the data recorder.
I think it would be useful information to know how many vehicles, you're stopping 800 vehicles on Winnequa for how many on Nichols.
Okay.
Anyone else? Alder, go forth.
I was just wondering, thinking about, the Lake Loop traffic going past there, heading south. Might we consider on that stop sign? Because what's going to happen is the bicyclists are not going to stop at that stop sign. Might we? But there's also a trend of the safety stops, or the Idaho stops is what they're calling them, is where bicyclists, they're actually making it laws across the country where bicyclists don't have to stop in that when they're not interfering with traffic. So if we might consider putting something on the stop sign, just kind of indicating, I don't know, either telling bicyclists to stop or telling them that they've got the right, the right to roll through. Just a point of maybe future discussion at Public Works, or I can provide more information.
Policy decision about that. One thing I would say, because I live just south of there, about a half a block, a lot of people cross over from the area west of Winnequa to go to the park and the library, and kids going to school. There's an awful lot of pedestrian traffic there. Alder Core and then Alder Thomas.
I would be interested, Director Stefani, if you could pull to see if that's, it's my assumption that bicyclists are required to follow all rules of the road, and any stops or controlled intersections, they're supposed to stop. And so I guess I would like a confirmation of that in the statutes for next meeting.
Yep, I believe state statutes 346 covers rules of the road. We'll verify that for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Alder Thomas.
That's a place where there are a lot of kids on bikes that go. And I'm very concerned about the message we send children. First of all, those who are walking about, well, don't worry about bikes. They don't have to stop. Don't worry if you're on a bike because you don't have to stop at this one, but you have to stop at the one down the street. I think that it is very confusing for children. And I see no reason why bikes should not follow the rules of the road, just like automobiles do. It's the law.
Alder Goforth.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with the law. I'm just simply saying that this is a trend and this law is starting to happen in other states. It's not in Wisconsin yet. But then we might want, well, and the reason bicyclists don't stop is because they're powered by your legs. And it's not as easy to get going as it would be with a car with a gas pedal. And so that's why bikes could roll through these kind of stops. So we might want to consider a sign on the stop sign that says bikes too, or just something to, to help with that, because, it's an issue all over the Lake Loop. So.
Alder Core.
If we're not expecting them to stop at the stop sign, then what would make them use the sign that says bikes, please stop?
I didn't say we're not expecting them to stop it. They're just not going to. I mean, they're just, they're going to roll through. That's what they're going to do. But sometimes if you put an additional piece of information or signage, it gets their attention. It's not really something that needs to be debated, I don't feel.
Anyone else have any other questions about this for Dan? Okay, I think we will move on to reports. Let's start with Alder Thomas.
I have no report except to say I'm leaving this lousy weather and going to California.
You have a wonderful trip.
Thank you.
Please come back.
First time I will see my grandson in 15 months. I have both my shots. I'm 2 weeks out from my shots. So I'm going to finally see my grandson, whose voice has changed from high pitched to very deep.
Well, that's really exciting, Kathy. I'm
Yeah.
really glad for you. Alder Core.
I'm not sure if a lot of you saw in the New York Times yesterday, but with the passage of the American Rescue Plan, there's $350 billion that's going to be released to state and local governments. And of that, we're getting, I think it's 130, that's $130 billion for cities alone. Of that portion, all of the municipalities within the state of Wisconsin are going to get something. From I think it's 406 million to Milwaukee to 30,000 for a small city in northern Wisconsin called Butternut. So of that, we're set to potentially get up to 810,000. And I would like to say the article also pointed out that this is supposed to be spending on infrastructure and parks, and that sort of funding potentially has a return on investment of 1.3 to 1.5 million. And so that means about 1.2 million that's going to be coming to the city of Monona, which is just phenomenal. Yeah. And so it's very exciting. I think it shifts the conversation around our budget significantly. Certainly there's a whole mess of rules that go along with this funding. And it's not clear to me exactly what those are yet, but I'll be watching it closely. I think this is a really important thing for us to understand. The American Rescue Plan is something that we will not see anything like in our lifetime. This is going to do more for getting people out of poverty and addressing health disparities than any other legislation since the Great Society. And I'm just thrilled that cities are being counted as well within that. And so I don't have another report, but I did want to point that out this evening.
Yeah, no, it is really exciting, and we're just starting to learn about it. But it will definitely be much less restrictive than the funding that we got last summer, which could pretty much only be used for COVID related purchases. So yeah, we will definitely be keeping you posted on that. Alder Moore.
Yeah, I just thought I would mention tonight that the Plan Commission, as the old slang goes, has been cooking with gas. We've had a lot of interesting things go in front of us in the last month or so, and one is WPS is putting up a new building. It's state-of-the-art building, which will, true to WPS, is going to be very sustainable, and it's a state-of-the-art building around their billing processing. Who knew, but they process literally hundreds of thousands of envelopes a day, but that's a really exciting building. The Four Lakes Yacht Club is doing a serious makeover. So they're gonna, and the plan there was really terrific. We have a new recreation, a new PAWS, as in PAWS, PAWS Aquatic Center, going in with at the 915 Femrite Drive. Which is the old Treasure Mart that's been sitting empty for a while, and we've been finding, there's been several shoppers. Oh, look, Molly just lit up like a Christmas tree. And that's actually a recreation and rehab center for dogs. It'll have a pool inside and a whole fitness area. And actually was brought to us by the gentleman that owns Perennial Yoga, and so I think that's going to be a great new thing. And last but certainly not least, I had a pre-hearing at the last meeting around a new proposal for the site where Monona Garden currently is. The owner of Monona Garden is decided to hang up his shingle. He's ready to retire, and it was mentioned at Plan Commission that specifically Corrine Fallett, one of the members, mentioned that she's going to miss the hot chocolate with whipped cream. So we might have to talk True Coffee into like adopting the recipe or something, but nonetheless, it's an exciting live work building that would be kind of a gateway for Monona, and has a lot of really terrific sustainable elements as part of it. Brought to us by the same gentleman that's doing the big building across the street next to the Cranberry Cove. So in any case, that was a pre-hearing. We have another pre-hearing coming up this next Monday, but that also was a really exciting thing to entertain. Again, no shovel breaking yet there, but I wanted to alert people to the fact that that's happening, and it was very well received in the pre-hearing conference, with the exception of parking, which of course is, the bane of our existence, right? It's always an issue here. So we'll grapple with it, but wanted people to know.
Good news. Alder Goforth.
Yeah, at Landmarks, we had a guest. We had Amy Rosebrow from the State Historical Society, and she kind of pitched us doing a phase 1 identification survey of all our parks and open spaces to kind of see, because we just haven't had any clear data on like where mound sites are or burial sites throughout the city, and really just kind of doing an archaeological survey. So she said there's grants available for that, and she thinks that would be something in high demand, and or that would be well received, and the likelihood of us receiving a grant for that was high. So we're just discussing that at that point. Community media, we talked about on May 1st, the Friends of WVMO will be live streaming their fundraiser from the Barrymore Theater. So that will be very fun. And then the e-newsletter is at 667 recipients, has an incredible open rate of 69.3%. So people should still continue to subscribe, and Sam Griffin, our staff person, has kind of overhauled it a little bit, and you'll see some little tweaks on it coming up here later this week, next issue. Hey, Nancy, I just wanted to clarify, the Populants who proposed the project at Monona Garden, they're not affiliated with the building across the street.
Okay, that's what I was told. Sorry.
Okay. Just slightly different, yeah, different developers, but they did do the Barracuda downtown on South Hamilton.
And the newsletter will be released on Wednesday. Alder Group B.
My dogs, Tom Hanks and Harry Styles, would like to report that they're very excited about the Paws Aquatic Center. So that is my priority as far as reports tonight. Second of all, the Transit Commission is working on our RFP for our busing contract. And, you know, I mentioned at our last meeting how Alder Coor had mentioned, and I think it's really important to keep having a standing agenda item related to diversity, equity, and inclusion at all of our committees, just to make sure that we're taking action where we can. And one of the things that we're hoping to include in the RFP, which will go out next month, is just insurance that the companies who submit bids are making sure that they're diligently training drivers in DEI and other, you know, related matters. So just wanted to get you hyped for that, our potential new contract. And we should be receiving bids, I think, in July at some point. So stay tuned. Other final note, we don't get to talk about this a lot. Senior Commission doesn't meet extremely regularly, but the Friends of the Monona Senior Center Board are intending to put on their summer concerts in Winnequa Park this summer. I know that that's something that we missed in the era of COVID in 2020. I know it's not an official city committee, but both Alder Thomas and I are on the board. And we're starting to get really excited about potentially being able to offer these, you know, these musical kind of refuges in the summer, outdoors, under safe conditions. But again, keep your eyes peeled for that as well, because I think it's going to be pretty exciting to get back to business.
Okay. Alder Wood.
You guys set the bar really high for committee reports tonight. The only thing I have to report is MPO at its March meeting approved essentially the reconstruction project of US Highway 51 from Stoughton to McFarland. That will be, I think construction is not till 2026, but it was approved as a majors project. So finally, that entire Stoughton Road corridor is having some major progress on at least the south third.
Okay, Alder Thomas, did you have something else to add?
I had a question when everybody's done with reports. When you were talking, when there was discussion about the newsletter, somebody queried me, I think they're on the media committee, about the newsletter and whether that is an executive initiative or whether it's media, because if you look at the ordinance, the media committee says is responsible for radio and TV and not print media. Could you clarify?
It's an executive initiative, but I certainly can see it falling, you know, obviously it probably would fall under community media because it uses community media staff. But I've pushed it. We've been talking about it for quite a while, and it came out of the executive office, but it is media staff. That's an answer.
I was just going to add, and it's digital, and so it seems like that would make sense for it to fall under there too.
Well, we need to change that. We need to change our ordinances then.
For the role of the media committee, yeah. Well, I think we're going to be having some changes about that anyway, about the media committee coming forward that we need to talk about. So that can be part of it. Now I think we'll move on to staff reports. Dan, did you have anything?
Yes, I just wanted to provide a quick update to City Council with regards to the speed humps that this City Council amended into the 2021 capital budget back in October. And I believe you had some maps put in the packet as well for your review. Probably kind of hard for you to blow them up and take a peek at them. But at the March 3rd Public Works Committee meeting, the committee also did approve the design to add the 2 speed humps on North Winnequa Road, a crosswalk speed hump at Waterman Way Park, and another speed hump just to the north, just south of the Outlook intersection. And those are the true effective speed humps, industry standard for design of those types. So it'll be a parabolic approach to it. So you will notice the approach more so than what you see on McKenna. And these will be effective with slowing speeds. We also included the traffic data in the city council packet. The 85th percentile speed up here is 31 miles per hour. And we also included the max speed in this area as well. And the data was collected just north of Outlook. So we have a max speed up here at 48 miles an hour, 42 miles an hour, 41, 39, 42. So those speeds are quite high in that area. And Aldermore has been, long before she came on council, she had discussions with me and staff in Public Works regarding traffic up in this area. So, you know, we have the data that shows we have speed up there. We have high counts in traffic, but, you know, these are two effective pieces of infrastructure that are geared to slow down motorists, and they can drive over them effectively if they're going 25 miles an hour or less. So basically, just to update you that this is moving forward. We have the approval of Public Works Committee, and we are going to be going out for bids April 8th and the 15th with the bid opening on April 22nd. And then we'll be back to Public Works Committee and this council in May for approval.
Great. Chief McMullen, you've been very patient all evening.
Well, no patience. No, I just enjoy watching everybody's smiling face. It's good to, it's good to see. I just wanted to hang around in case there was any questions anybody had. I sent out the February report this afternoon. The flex staffing is going well. It'll actually be a formalized next month with our full-time staff. What the expectations are. We've been doing it on kind of a trial basis with folks that are willing to experiment with the new idea of flex staffing. So it's been going very well. 62 has been taking several calls.
Good.
Other than that, everything's going well. I just enjoy sitting here listening to everybody. So I enjoy it. So.
Well, thank you for attending. Let's Alder go forth.
I just had a question for Chief. I was wondering are you going to have to do any type of training or special training with the Beltline Flex Lane? Or
other than cringe on a daily basis,
yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing that we're doing. So the biggest issue we have with the flex lane construction part, there's two parts that we're concerned with. The narrowing of lanes we can deal with, but we basically lost a foot out of each lane of travel, which makes it pretty tight for some of our bigger equipment to get through there. The second part is the rolling ramp closures. They actually started the ramp closures without even notifying us. They started them literally the day after we had the pre-meeting. They were closing ramps on us already without notifying us. They've gotten better this week. So the crews are kept up to date on what ramps they can use and not use. But the biggest problem with the flex lane construction is the traffic through there doesn't seem to realize that there's construction, and they're still doing 85 miles an hour in 3 narrower lanes now. So.
Scary. Alder Coor.
Sorry, I'll make this brief. So it's spring in Monona, and it's a spring election. So along with spring flowers, we've got yard signs popping up. And I've noticed that along Monona Drive, there are a couple businesses that have 2 yard signs for 1 candidate, which is against code. So it's important that people pay attention to that and pull duplicate yard signs. So residents, if you've got a yard sign, as long as one per candidate, that would be great. Thank you.
That is true. That is the code. Joan, did you have something?
Just wanted to do a quick update, repeating the dates for absentee voting. One thing is tomorrow we will be mailing out 1,255 absentee ballots that we have requests for. It'll be a little more than that because they're coming in like crazy right now. Those are due back by 8 p.m. on election day, but we urge you strongly to please do it sooner. And please follow the directions and fill in that envelope completely. That would need the voter signature, the witness signature, and the witness's address before we can accept that ballot. We would have to contact you to fill that in or mail it back to you, and that's going to take time. So please, please read the directions, look at the highlighting, and fill in where it's required so we can accept your ballot. We want you to vote, okay? So the dates, the last date to request an absentee ballot to be mailed is April 1st. The absentee voting in person at City Hall will begin on, let me see here, Tuesday, March 23rd, and that goes through Friday, April 2nd. Normal days would be 8 to 5. And then we have additional hours on Wednesdays until 7 on the 24th and 31st. And then we have Saturday morning from 8 a.m. until noon on March 27th. And then all of our voting activity ends on that Friday, April 2nd at 5 o'clock. So you do have that window of opportunity to vote in person. You have a window of opportunity to request a ballot be mailed to you. We won't be going to Heritage Monona. They are not going to allow us in, but we are going to mail ballots to every resident that has a request on file with us. And there's still time for them to request ballots. If there's other residents that want to request a ballot, we'll be happy to provide. So we're busy in the clerk's office. We've got other things going on, but that's kind of course, the main thing with us is elections. We did send out liquor license packets, and that's happening too. And then pretty soon it'll be board of review. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now, but all of it is clicking along. So.
And the absentee ballot box, drop-off box will be open.
Yes, I'll be unlocking the drop box in the parking lot. That's between the flag poles in the parking lot, and it's got signage, and it's kind of cool looking. That's going to be opened up probably by Wednesday, because people may get ballots the day after we mail them, and people want to return them right away. So we'll have that unlocked and ready for your ballots, and we empty it every day. We record what we take out. It's all quite, we keep tabs on it.
Yeah. And people
Alder Goforth had a question. I'm sorry.
People can drop off there till 8 the night of the election, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Anything else?
Alder Goforth has her hand up.
Yep. I just wondered if you had anything else.
I have nothing else.
Okay. Thanks.
I received a question. I was wondering if you could clarify. Someone asked me that they said that they requested an absentee ballot, but they wanted to change their mind and vote in person. Any problems there, or?
Well, if they would call us right away, we can take care of that. We can cancel that request so that we won't be mailing them a ballot. I really wish I would have heard from them before today, because we've got our labels already, but we will still, if they call us right away tomorrow, we'll be sure to pull that ballot out and not mail it.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
But they could still vote. I mean, if they get the absentee ballot and decide they want to vote in person, what do they do then?
If they want to keep that ballot, they can go to the polling place on election day. They would rip that ballot up before they get to the polling place, and then they would certify to us verbally that they did not return their ballot that they were issued, because the poll book will show that a ballot was issued to them, and then they could vote in person. But a cleaner process would be to let us know so we get that out of our records that a ballot was sent to you, and then you can go right to the polls without having to stop and explain yourself.
City Administrator Gatto.
Just real quick, obviously we're keeping an eye on the various Dane County orders that have been coming in the last couple of weeks. And as things begin to loosen up a bit, we're evaluating kind of the city facilities, the ones that are currently close to the public. And as with the help of Fire Chief McMullen, he's been able to get a number of our frontline staff their first vaccine dose, with second doses coming in the next couple of weeks. So once that's been completed, we'll be able to focus on opening up library and community center once we've got the frontline staff there vaccinated. So we'll keep you in the loop as to when those dates of reopening might actually be.
Great news. I just had a couple things. I did hear that the Monona garage sale apparently is going to be taking place the weekend of May 15th. So look for some announcements about that. I also heard that the yard waste site is opening this Saturday, a little bit earlier than normally planned, although with the snow today, who knows how much yard waste people will have that isn't covered by snow. Let's see, the committee openings will be posted soon. There aren't too many. I think I'm just waiting on one to hear about. So I'll be having Leah post those on the website and encourage people to fill out an application. I guess the only other thing is our next meeting is 3 weeks from now. So we have a little bit longer break between this one. Alder Moore, you're muted.
Sorry, but your mention of the yard sale reminded me that the Sustainability Committee is hosting on Saturday, the 24th of April, is hosting an e-cycling event at Ahuska Park, where all that electronic stuff that you've been storing up in your basement or in your office closet or wherever else I know I've got plenty of it, can be dropped, and we've contracted with an e-cycling firm, and there'll be all kinds of information coming out about it. But I just wanted to let people know if they wanted to start creating a stash in their garage or in their basement or whatever, that that event will be coming up on Saturday the 24th at Ahuska.
Will you be sending out a list of what you'll be collecting?
Absolutely, we'll be sending out lists. We already have a flyer. We'll be sending out lists. We'll be doing lots of posts and advertising about it. And there is a charge depending on what type of article that you're dropping. That's all handled by the purveyor that we're using. And they have been doing these events very successfully, recognizing all of the precautions we'd want to recognize around COVID as well. But yeah, we will have a full list of everything that we'll be taking in that day, and prices and instructions and hours and all of that.
Great. I know when I was on sustainability, back when I was on council, we had one of those. And it was very popular. It was great opportunity. So thank you.
Doug, it's time to get rid of that tube TV you've got.
What? An outrage.
If it still works, why get rid of it?
Right. Okay, I think if no one has anything else, I'm kind of amazed this meeting. I mean, it's 2 hours and 18 minutes or whatever, but I thought it had potential to be a lot longer. So is there a motion to adjourn? There are no appointments. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Oh,
Everybody.
a second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?